Continuing with that thread from Richard, though, because even maybe more interestingly is him getting into what's going to do with interest rates, basically macro, all kinds of macro stuff. So, so he said TLDR, interest rates higher for longer to fight inflation, which we've been talking about here for weeks. People sell bonds and stocks to buy T-bills, risky to bet on BTC to decouple and act like a safe haven from stocks when historically it's just done what stocks have done, but harder. A few things have shown they can pump during dumps. With a smiley face because he's talking about Hex. I am not a professional of any type. This is not financial advice, blah, blah, blah. P.S. It sucks that the government has billions of dollars of Bitcoin it intends to dump on your head from the Bitfinex hackers, Silk Road hackers, Silk Road itself, etc. It also has lots of Ethereum, sadly, because of things like FTX, however, much less than Bitcoin, which he's definitely read about that. So what he's saying, he continues to clarify this stuff. So I think stocks will be going down for a while. S&P 500 is at 4137 currently. If I'm right, it'll be pointing back to this call and telling you I told you so, yada, yada. And then talks about calling the top in real estate as well. So he's basically saying that we should see stocks go the other direction and start going down here because of interest rates being hiked for longer, which, might make people worry when they hear that because, of course, they take what he think so seriously, but also just the fact that we think a bull market is around the corner, so what is going on? And then you also hear that a Fed pivot is a bearish scenario, like when they begin to pivot, markets do tend to dump. So what do you make of that? I mean, because it sounds like, well, when the hell are we going up here? Because I thought like next year is when like the market starts to go up. Is he talking about it just going down until maybe crashing into the pivot, whenever that may be, like by June or something of next year, and then we really take off? It's hard to say because there's so many different factors to this, but what do you make of that, Ewok? Because I think a lot of people read that and they thought like, okay, so I thought a bull market's around the corner. Why are you telling me that the stock market's going to go down and BTC is going to go down?
Well, I think people are losing faith in the general markets as a macro in general, and they want more profits. They know things are right around the corner. If you go back to what Richard said, and if you haven't watched some of his live streams and you're bored, you should really go back and listen to some of the things, because he does truly just educate. And one of the things that he said historically happens is it does crash after a pivot. Once they change the rates and start to go the other way, things will crash in the macro. So he's still anticipating that, I think, to happen. I haven't heard otherwise, but according to what he was saying, I still think he thinks that's happening. So, I'm not versed on the macro enough to be speaking of it. I don't understand the T-bills and the changing the interest rates and how they really. I mean, I understand how they affect things, but I don't know enough to talk skillfully about it. So I don't like to put my foot in my mouth and say something, that's wrong. But I mean, I think he did mention, that the U.S. isn't the only country that's overprinting, printing their way out of the mess. So, I think the whole global economy, he did call the top on the housing market. And I don't know how far off he really was, because things are pretty bad with the rates and all of that good stuff. So, I don't know what to make of it. I can only really look at the crypto markets and see what I'm seeing. As far as getting some of the normie money into this, people are just tired of making nothing, making no gains, and I can see it slowly happening, and I think that's why we're starting to see some of the green candles that we're seeing.
Yeah, I think so too. There's just so many different angles to this that, you can assign any story to the market going in whatever direction you want to, I think. But the thing that, if anything, I think helps me sleep at night is just that Bitcoin has stuck to that 4-year cycle just so perfectly. And just kind of, not betting the farm on that, but overall banking on that and realizing that there's going to be, some delineation a bit from that. I mean, it's not going to go necessarily 100% according to plan, but just knowing that it's done that throughout its history, I would much rather pay attention to that than any of these different stories that people are pulling out of their hat, trying to assign to why things are up or down or whatever. So,
Yep.
Yeah, digital
And it's
farmer.
the cycle's the same until it's not, we just we've got to go on that. It's the 4-year cycle again is the same until it isn't. And until it teaches us that, we'll keep going with what we know.
For sure. Yeah. Did you want to get rid of that Hex Daily stats up there? I don't know if you still knew you had it up or not, but
I
just for
still see it, but
I think
I
people
didn't know
probably
if
want to see our. Go
you want
ahead.
to see our ugly mugs.
I was going to say people probably want to see our faces in high def. Yeah, I don't know if you want to get
Yeah,
rid of it, but
I
yeah.
did want to talk about the penalties the other day. I
Oh,
don't
go
know.
ahead. That's
I mean,
go right ahead. Go right ahead.
The penalties today are not much, but I don't know if you noticed or anybody saw some of the penalties of the early end stakers. They're waiting till halfway through and they're unstaking millions and millions of hex.
Right.
Yesterday or the day before, the payout was up near 8 or 9, I think, because there was 12 million in penalties on both chains at least. It was pretty juicy. So just keep an eye on this page. It's got some really good information to kind of tell you what's going on in the markets. And the T-share rate, we've officially crossed over the 30,000 threshold for both chains. They're not far off. I'm really surprised how close they are. As far as T-share rate goes, it's 5 hex difference at this point. So
Wow. Yeah.
it's crazy how close they're staying together. But you look at the T-share price, 265 on Ethereum and $429 dollars on Pulse Chain. So yeah, that's all. I'll
Pretty
remove
sweet.
it so they can see our beautiful faces.
Thank you. I just wanted to get us a little bit more zoomed in there. So, but no, I think that those are stats that, it is worthwhile for people to pay attention to, because in these kind of tumultuous times when the market's shitty and stuff like that, it is nice to see those metrics, to see that, like, okay, well, hey, flawless uptime again, and seeing, what I'm earning every day, as long as you're staked, is valuable. So, and check out, stuff like Crispy Man's channel and hexfire.io and stuff, because he does a lot of work with all that stuff and knows all the ins and outs of like what's going on with the hex stakers and everything. So I encourage everybody to check that out.
Can I
Let's
say
do
something
some.
about
Yeah,
this
go
comment?
ahead. Yeah.
Luis, don't forget, if you stake over 365 days, there are long-term capital gains and short-term capital. I'm not a tax person, but you might want to look into that. So I just like to bring that up when I see people doing short stakes. 140 days might not get you a whole bunch of yield. And
Right.
depending on what the cost of if gas is that day, you just want to feel it out. Make sure that you're listening to all the options as far as staking goes. So just wanted to say that.
Yeah, and it's always good to, we talked a lot about staking ladders with RG3 last week. It's good to differentiate those, shorter stakes, longer stakes. I mean, my shortest one is 365 days probably, but short,
Yeah.
long, both chains, whatever, however you want to do it. So that's kind of an individual
Yeah.
choice. But hey, you know what? Great time actually to mention, if we want to shill something away, more so shilling Crypto Coffee and all the great stuff he makes for, learning resources for this ecosystem. Every single one of our videos, I put our affiliate link to his Hex passive income course. He just finished all of the updates to it that include Pulse Chain stuff. Now, I think a lot of the content in the course, if you are not a beginner and already really familiar with this stuff, may be, very repetitive for you possibly. But it is intended to help somebody who hasn't done this at all and help somebody out with Hex. But I'm guaranteed that you'll learn something that you don't know. I've already learned stuff that I don't know when I see things that are in it. So check that out. That's going to be the pinned tweet on all of our videos. I highly recommend looking into that if you want to get like a full understanding of what the heck smart contract is, and then other things dealing with Pulse Chain that Coffee just added in. So
Yep.
definitely a good time to check that
Good
out.
call.